you believe that, let me put it this way. Do you believe that the federal government now giving contracts to ex-militants to protect these pipelines, do you believe that's a good idea?
That's blackmail. That's my answer.
That's blackmail.
Yes.
And federal government possibly is trying to ensure that they get more crude, they get more out of the ground.
It's obviously not working because, as I said, 2 million barrels a day is what we're supposed to produce.
It's down to almost 700,000.
Thank you very much. So what pipeline is this person getting 4 billion naira for? Or others? So we are deceiving ourselves.
They don't deserve that.
It's not whether they deserve it or not. The country is not working. The president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is a powerful man. State governor or who else be damned. If he believes that his country is going to be the way he wants this country to be, he's a benevolent leader. He will go in there and he will fix the issues. He will make sure that these areas of agitation, the wealth of this nation, is catered for. The people in the South deserve. I've always said this. My father was in the oil and gas business. I grew up as a production manager for Niger's Petroleum. I know what I saw there. And it's disgraceful. Any country you go to where you see your resources, whether it's in San Francisco, where the gold rush was happening and they invested there, and look at San Francisco today, one of the most beautiful cities you will ever visit. Go anywhere where your president values your people. Where you remove those resources, you see wealth, you see growth, you see good education, fantastic healthcare. That is what bad leadership has done. And you want us to go and put the same people back in again, and people who have not done the same thing in their states. We need a paradigm shift in Nigeria. We need somebody who believes in the territorial integrity of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And above all, we need a uniter-in-chief.
What would you say to separatist agitations currently bedeviling the southeast of the country? What would be your take if you were to get into office today? Would you spring Nnamdi Kanu out of detention? What would you do?
I will say the same thing again. It's not a Hausa man in the southeast that is governing those places. It's an indigent. People are upset. They're agitating for secession because they believe that they've been left out of the inclusivity of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The Southeast is the most industrial part of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Again, a good leader understands what he can do there. Remember the days when Taiwan and China were producing terrible goods? They retooled. Now your iPhone that you cherish is bought there. Everybody wants that product because they retooled. I believe that if you retool into the Southeast, invest in infrastructure, power, present the right kind of image that you want for a country. Things made in Aba should be sold in London and in Harrods and in any of the big stores around the world because we have retooled. Things that are produced, whether it's your shoe or your leather handbag, whether it's in the north of this country or in the south, you understand that the leadership that you put in play must figure out that in order for me to put that secessionist mindset away, wealth above all stops that. A man that is carrying a gun is not trying to get himself killed. He's trying to fight for something. Okay. And if you feed him well, if you give him a job, if you give him some sort of dignity, he's less likely to agitate for something that does not exist.
So how would you free Nnamdi Kanu? Again,
there's a law.
Would you go through some out of the judicial process to maybe give him amnesty?
My dear, the most important part of what I've learned in governance and in working with traditional rulers and in working with presidents from all over the world. As I said, I was with 155 countries. Rule of law. If you abide by rule of law, you know what the law is. You know the penalties for what you do.
So you're going to let him go through the legal route?
There's no reason why he should not get due process.
Okay.
And I believe that there are issues that are very clear that he has done, and there are issues that the federal government has also done.
And the Yoruba nation, we also know that it's not just the Southeast, you have the Southwest, you have agitation from the Yoruba nation that want also their own country carved out of Nigeria, how would you tackle that? Would
It's
you
the
use
same thing. It's the same thing.
approach?
Look, you cannot blackmail a nation. Yoruba is Yoruba. Without Nigeria, it's just a place. Look at Benin Republic.
And I
That's
believe
just, it's a small.
your heritage dips into you. Yoruba
Yes,
man.
I'm a Yoruba man. My mother is Yoruba. My heritage and my ethnicity is not most important. My country. That passport I carry is a Nigerian passport, not a Yoruba passport or an Igbo passport. I swore an oath to uphold the things that are dear to this country when I was at a different country. I didn't get into the UN under the Nigerian flag. I got in based on what I do.
Based on merit.
Completely merit-based. And that, for me, has always been the lightning rod in my life, that if you are good at what you do, if you have God in front of you and a good understanding and an education and a drive for your people, not for yourself. Look, I've come from wealth. I'm nothing to be ashamed. Call it lucky sperm, call it whatever it is. I come from wealth. And I know what it means. And I come from a royal family that has taken its people first above anything else. I'm so proud of my grandfather, because I live by the spirit in which I saw and learnt about him and what he did. And I'll give you this in a very short way. In 1929, he went to the United Kingdom, met with King George. And he had only one thing when they went to Buckingham Palace. And they asked him, what do you want? We can give you wealth, we can give you money. He brought 2 lion cubs and gave it to the king. And he said, no, I have wealth. No, I have money. Lord Lugard is there. He knows what I do. I have my people. We're from Lokoja area, so that's where the British had their Lord Lugard had his palace or his ruling environment. And he said, no. When I came on a vessel here, on a ship, it was going to Mecca, in my cabin, there was this thing, and I turned it, and water came out of it. And when I got into my hotel room, I had the same thing, and I turned it, and water came out of it. What is it? And they told him about how pipe-borne water was being distributed. And he said, that's what I want from my people. He said, that's all? That's all I want from my people. King George was so impressed, he sent the royal engineers to Lokoja, to Okene to be very specific. And that was the first place that pipe-borne water was brought to his people, because they had to climb up a mountain to go fetch water to bring it down. It was the first place in Nigeria where pipe-borne water. He did that for his people. He didn't ask for wealth. And you know what King George then did? He gave him a tour of the UK. And I have these on film. In Birmingham, in Scotland, in London, and showed him other things that he can bring back to his people. And he built the first prison in northern Nigeria. And he built the first school, the first mosque in northern Nigeria.
Some people might say that you're from a lineage, a royal lineage, you're from wealth. How would they expect you to feel the pain of the common Nigerian?
Very simple.
Downtrodden.
Very simple.
They might say you've never gone hungry, you've never had children starve.
Is it the measure of the starvation of my children, or the empathy I have in my heart that is the measure of the man? I see pain. I know what it feels like. We lived amongst the people. We don't live separately. We walk to the mosque. We see what they go through. You have to come to even where I come from to see the love they have for us, because we don't run away from what we believe is fundamentally right. We are part of the people.
How have you impacted the people of Kogi State? It's one question some people might ask.
Absolutely.
They said you have all of this history behind you. But Kogi State, as we know, is one of the states that is going through a lot of challenges within the country.
Absolutely.
It's poverty-ridden, has issues with road network, has issues with schools, hospitals, and all of that.
Excellent.
How have you personally, Prince Malik Ado-Ibrahim, impacted Kogi State?
Prince Malik Ado-Ibrahim has no reason or rhyme to impact Kogi State, because there is a governor that is picked by the people, for the people, to do exactly what you said he's supposed to do. And they failed. And they have failed miserably. We see those roads, we see the death, we see the poverty. Who am I to change that? Am I elected? No. And that's why I'm putting everything I have to stand in front of Nigeria and say, this is the person I am. It comes and starts with me. It doesn't start with somebody telling me that my state doesn't work. My state doesn't work because there's bad governance.
I know, but shouldn't charity begin at home? Shouldn't you look at your people, you feel the empathy of the people, the downtrodden, shouldn't you, outside governance, be able to impact their lives?
There is absolutely
because you
no
are
way.
not elected, but because you feel their pain.
There is no way that I can impact people that are under the charge of a chief executive of a state. Otherwise, you'd have lawlessness. You'd have everybody setting up courts and not believing in the rule of law and doing whatever you want to do. There is justice. There is a rule of law. There is an elected official. There's a state government. There's a local government. There's everything down to the wards. There's 774 local governments in this country. I have no constitutional right, as you told me, and I've said, if you don't give the traditional rulers that, what do? People come to us with their problems. The governor hasn't paid my pension. I can't send my child to school. What is my job as a traditional ruler's son? I give for that child to go. There's nobody who will tell you that they go to the palace where my father is from and ask for something. He won't do it. It's not up to him to go and fight the governor. It's not up to me to say, no, go to the governor. I do what I have, and I have to be benevolent in that way. That's the tradition that we uphold. We're not there for Kogi state. We're there for our people. I'm an Igbira prince, not a Kogi prince. When anybody from anybody else, whether it's Igala or Kaba, they come to us, I don't judge them because they're not my people. I will give. I live in Abuja. When people come and they need, I will give. My family, my wife, that's what we do. There's a pride in doing that. There's a very Nigerian element to doing that. When you have wealth, people come to you. But we are not government. Wealth equates to governance in some people's eyes. No. Governance is a selfish, a self-centered look at your people and putting them first before yourself. I'm not hungry going to the presidency. I'm hungry in my soul. I'm hungry in my mind, and I want Nigerians to see the kind of things that I've seen. You cannot sit in a hole and tell me you see the world. You must have been to the world and come back home, and that's what I've done.
Yes. Let's go to the sector of electricity. How would you impact electricity in Nigeria?
Well, the system we have is broken and has been broken for decades. I remember when this administration came in 2015, there's a whole lot of noise about an energy mix, solar, and all this stuff was going to be done. We're in 2022, not one thing has been done. Adding a new energy format into the Nigerian energy mix is going to change everything. Renewables can be used to change the way Nigeria is fed power. And it can be fed and embedded at a very local level using technology. But we believe that if something isn't making noise, it's not generating power. If it's your generator or a big turbine, it's not. But solar does all this and does it very effectively. And I'm a big believer that if you put renewable energy at the forefront of business going forward, if you put renewable energy where it's needed, if you embed it without using transmission, if you use it as part of your energy mix, which is bringing solar, hydro, everything else into a plan for Nigeria, taking industry off the main grid, putting it into segregated areas where you provide power for industry, not taking and stealing power for the people, then you'll begin to change the way power is distributed.
So you're looking at an off-grid way of tackling the electricity problem.
Yes, an embedded off-grid mix. It can't do it everywhere.
We do know that Nigerian transmission is really the major problem because you can generate so much if you cannot
pass it through. Absolutely.
Because we have a transmission system that is broken.
Yes.
Are you going to rebuild additional infrastructure for transmission?
All that takes time. It's quicker for me to put 100 or 1,000 megawatts into a particular region using renewables and an energy mix than try to build transmission there, which will take you 4 to 6 years if you do it properly. I'm already out of my administration time. We need impactful power policy today that gets you up and running. And this is not something I'm talking about like it's some kind of fictional. I went to Egypt and 3 days and I learned how to do it. I've built it. I put 5 megawatts in Adamawa State running today with Seboro International. We built a power plant that has 5 megawatts when the Yola grid for 4 states has 7 megawatts. 80% of the power was put in 3 months 80% of the power of 4 states in 3 months on a 15,000 hectare farm. I've done it. I'm not going by any kind of
You don't
theory.
need to go learn on the job. You
No.
don't think
When it comes to the military stance of this country and the power, which are the two fundamental elements that I think Nigeria must focus on, I don't need to be taught. I'm a teacher. I do. I'm proudly Nigerian in that aspect. And all my products in 18 countries around the world say that. Proudly Nigerian. And people ask me that same question. I say, I invented this. And I stick by that because I only have one passport and I love it.
On that note, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Spotlight on Atlantic Television. We're still having the conversation with the presidential candidate for the YPP for the 2023 presidential general elections. Prince Malik, it's been good talking to you and hearing you espouse your passion for this country. Passion is something that runs with young people. And a lot of young people are unemployed. How do you intend to bring them in?
You know, what breaks my heart is watching what young men and women have to go through in this country, and the fact that they feel they're living in a different space. They're not part of this. I have 3 children. They're in their early 30s. And I look at what they go through in other countries. And when they're here, and my son worked with me here for 4 years, and I realize that they're neglected. They're the soul of this country. The informal economy in Nigeria is run by young people. Our arts are spectacular. Our musicians, if there's anything that makes me proud, and my wife makes fun of me in the mornings, I put on Afrobeat and I'm just loving Nigeria and loving the Africanness of who we are and how we're changing the global scene, whether it's on TikTok or Instagram or whatever form Nigerian music, you'll hear it sooner or later. We're not giving them an enabling environment. Our film sector, whether it's Nollywood or Kannywood, again, explosive. You give Nigerian anything to do with talent, sooner or later he'll get to the top. Look at what we did with sports. These are our ambassadors, and they're doing it on their own without government intervention, without government aid, without an enabling environment. We don't have soccer academies that are national. I mean, countries are pushing their athletes to be the best they can. Yes, they're even doing things like doping them and everything else. But why? It's because it's the cheapest and most effective form of ambassadorialship you can give anybody. They represent your nation.
What practical steps would you put in place as per government policy to bring in the young people that are outside the space of governance? What would you do for them?
It's about inclusivity, and it's men and women. And what it boils down to is, again, the reflection of your commander-in-chief, your leader. What is he doing? What is he espousing for? Is he fit? Is he energetic? Does he understand what modernity does? Look at things like companies like Paystack, Flutterwave, Nigerian ingenuity that have become unicorns, billion-dollar companies. It's not because the Nigerian government gave them and that ability. It's because investors came in from outside and invested in these young men, and they became something large. Where are the incubators in Nigeria? Why isn't our government taking the leaf out of Malaysia and Singapore and creating spaces where young people can come and be innovative and be creative? That's one way of...
You're going to set up tech hubs around the country?
We are phenomenal. I mean, whether you like it or not, we have taken it to the negative space of Yahoo boys. But at the end of the day, we understand the tech space. We need to rechannel that into productivity for this nation. And it's for this nation, because if they're successful, then the country is also successful. You tax better. They feel involved. You protect them. You grow with them. The Nigerian president is now the CEO of that company because he goes abroad and he espouses the beauty of my product, my country, my people. That's what's missing. So yes, hubs for sports, hubs for education, because look, when we even talk about education, we're still talking about brick and mortar. What's a big problem for a lot of families, a mother that wants to send their child to school, not
And
knowing
they
if
do
the
not have
child.
the money to be able to put them in school. Are you going to think about loans or
No,
banks that
I
will
will
be able
approach
to?
this completely different. It's something we're not talking about. First of all, as I was saying, getting those children to that school has a problem in itself of security, because you don't know if that child's coming back home. We've seen it in Chibok, we've seen it in other places around this country where the schools have been attacked. And that's for ransom. Now, during the COVID era, we also understood that people didn't need to go to school. They were educated at home. E-education became the most fundamental part of continuing your education. Why aren't we doing that? Putting that e-education back into the syllabus, getting schools online, creating that environment. And that's when you're forward thinking and you're visionary, because brick and mortar is the thing of the past.
Yes, but then you were talking about e-learning and all of that. We
Yes.
still go back to the fact that these kids do not have the tablets, the computers.
Very
They don't
good.
have all of that. How do you intend to bridge that gap?
You've got to understand that there are a couple of ways you're going to be able to do that. First of all, that's also an opportunity for a young Nigerian to say, you know what, I'm going to start manufacturing tablets in this country. And the government takes him on. Because all he has to do, baby, is probably do an SKD, semi-knockdown production, give him the tools as an off-taker, and all of a sudden you get something that works. Give it so that the children can, the families can afford it. Whether they paid over time, doesn't matter. You keep them educated. An educated country is a country on the move. An uneducated country is one that is destined for failure and breakup, and we're almost experiencing that. So you need the tools. You need to have the vision to be able to see that and be able to implement this and say, you know what, a tablet. I'm not having to buy books. I can download this book and I can read that syllabus offline. I can read and I can go into class, and the teacher doesn't have to be in anywhere except where he can see a screen with all his 30 or 40 students. He can ask questions. Homeworks can be done. This happened during the COVID time. We didn't pick it up. We were basically chasing Twitter out of the country, not focusing on what we could do for a better nation.
You're from the northern part of the country, from the north central to be precise.
Yes.
And we know that the bulk of out-of-school children reside in the north. You're also part of royalty in the north. How are you going to tackle this issue of out-of-school children and Almajiri children?
You know, the element that we always get pushed down our neck is that northerners just like to have children, multiple families and all that. At the end of the day, it's the government's job, state and federal, to give them a home. The part of the lack of patriotism that we see is that those kids don't feel part of Nigeria. I need to find a way to bring them back, embrace them into the fold, the family. President is your father. Whether he's a young father or an old father, it doesn't matter, he's your father. He still needs to be able to think, how do I bring these people back into understanding that green, white, green belongs to you? Nigeria is for all, not for some. And the things to do is to create, whether it's skill acquisition centers, create value for them. People are talking about farming like it's a bad thing. If you do it technically, where there's a skill that is learned, there is a technological advantage to having that, then we begin to look at things. And I believe that there are ways that I really don't want to explain too much, because I feel that I'm giving too much away, but there are certainly ways in which we can bring these people back into the workforce and make them believe that I, as a leader, care for them.
Are you going to abolish the Almajiri system?
Abolishing a system that is not, I don't need to abolish anything. We need everything that we can. But the system, in the way it's implemented, may need to be tweaked. I'm not there trying to say I can change everything. But remember, here's the thing. With all due respect to every Nigerian that's out there, we're in a very difficult place today. Every single one of us, you and me, top to bottom. We need to fix the fundamentals of Nigeria today. And if you're going to do that, you cannot do everything. You must fix the fundamentals, because you cannot lay anything new on top of the foundation we have today. It's a house of cards. It will fall.
We have a system where religion, more or less, and culture collide together and make children, a situation where children leave their homes and are sent kilometers away from their abode, from their parents, to Islamic teachers to tutor and to groom these very young kids under 10 years old. That, I believe, is the root of the Almajiri system. We had a situation where the Goodluck administration built some schools and was going to retweak that. You talk about retooling. How would you retool that? And some people, the present government did not buy into that idea and dropped that project. How would you address that?
Moving thousands of kilometers or miles to go to school really is, again, something that shouldn't happen. And I think that, again, what is education? It's knowledge. How do I give you that knowledge? It doesn't mean that you walking that distance hungry to get to school where the food is terrible and you're going to be able to do nothing but get, just, it's a safe space. It's supposed to be a safe space that we know is not safe today. This doesn't happen just because people are Muslim. People send their kids to boarding schools thousands of miles away. Whether it's in a good place or in Eton or in Lagos, doesn't make any difference. You're still sending your kids thousands of miles away. It's the value of the education that you get while you're there that is what we should be worried about, not the fact that they're trekking thousands of miles or they're going wherever they need to go. Policing our education system is important. What are they learning? Are they being fundamentally coerced into things? How can we change that? Can we give them an image of a better Nigeria that they want? It's not about Western education not being appealing. When you have that Western education, what do you do with it? And you see that the best of Nigeria comes from everywhere. If you go to Europe, you'll see Hausa doctors, Igbo doctors, Yoruba doctors. They didn't say because I was in an Almajiri school or I went to Eton or what. It's the value you get. We cannot take everybody from the bottom to the top, but we can start the process. And my job, come 2023, is to make sure that everybody gets a chance. But the chance comes by giving you power, because without power, you're going to school for nothing. You're going to school for nothing. Your candlelight ain't going to do nothing for you. You need power in your schools because your chemistry set doesn't work. Your biology system doesn't work. The computers don't work. What am I going to learn there? Of course, rhyme and chalk and all that stuff. But even in a dark room, you're not going to see what's there. You're under a tree. You get mosquito. Power fixes that. It fixes healthcare because you don't go to a hospital and they can't take the drugs out of the fridge because the fridge is not working. The fridge is not working, so the virus you're going to get is going to kill you.
So you're going to medical tourism. How are you going to deal with it? If you're president come May 29th, 2023, are you going to say, all my medicals I'm going to do here in Nigeria? I'm not going to fly abroad like the present president is doing for medical?
By the grace of God, I'm at an age where I'm not going to be worried about some of the little medical things that happen. I think it's all to God, and the glory be to God that I'm healthy. And you need to invoke that health. You need to put a healthy man in that space. You cannot be a feeble man running the most populous, blackest nation on earth.
What I'm saying is, what are you going to do?
I understand.
To make sure that, are you going to be traveling out of the country for medical venture? Let's say anything, we don't pray for it.
Goes wrong.
Would you submit yourself to the Nigerian healthcare system, or would you take yourself out?
So first of all, the Nigerian healthcare system, that the legacy they've left us is atrocious. It's atrocious. We're talking about our teachers being paid well, our doctors. Without good health, you've got nothing. No matter how much you pay, the same ASU doctor teacher is going to go and see a doctor. And if the healthcare system doesn't work, say hello to your maker. Healthcare without power doesn't work. If you do it well and there's the right kind of health, your nation builds itself. It's a healthy nation. It's a vibrant nation. And again, I'll take you back to what I say. There are only two things that we need to focus on for the first 4 years in office: power and security. Because if you put the power and security in the right place in this nation, everything will work.
That's a 2-point agenda.
I don't have anything other than that. And anybody who gives the members of this amazing country any other kind of snake oil medicine is a liar. Those are the two. If you go to any man in the street and ask him, in the first 4 things he's going to tell you, those are the 2 things that will pop up. And if you come here telling us you're going to fix education without power, you can't do it. If you're going to tell me even that payment platform that the ASU want, without power, It's not working.
So you're not going to touch corruption. Let me put this to you. We know there are some political exposed people that are outside the country presently, and the government, this administration that came on one based on the fight against corruption, are waiting or hoping that they're going to be able to, when they do get them. What would you do to people like that are outside the country right now, more or less running away from the long arms of the law? Are you going to give an amnesty?
No, you're answering the question.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So I will preempt you by saying this. As long as they're Nigerians, and as somebody like me is the president and the leader of this country, I will find a way to bring them home. I will find a way for them to at least present themselves in a sorrowful way. If you're not sorry, don't come back home. If you're not sorry, if all that stuff you've taken and we can agree, invest, build a hospital, do something. Sitting there putting your money in the UK bank is not doing us any good. By the time you die and you bring it back, like Abacha's funds will take you 40 years to get your money back, and they've taken their 30%.
So you're
bring
going to
them
have
back
a
home.
plea bargain agreement?
We do it in law. It's part of the legal system. There's nothing wrong. It's not because I know them. I don't know them. I've never been in government. We need Nigeria for Nigerians, not Nigerians for the few that are pious and hypocritical. Bring it back. Build this nation again. We need a builder. As I said, we need a uniter in chief. We're not looking for somebody who's going to be God over us again.
We have somebody saying he's going to be the unifier, the presidential candidate for...
Maybe he's going to put you
PDP.
and me in the fire, but there is nothing that the person has done before that makes me believe that it has changed. A tiger does not change its stripes. We need a paradigm shift. This is the new Nigeria we're looking for, and the new Nigerians we're looking for are not in power. They've never tasted it. They don't know the secret formula for hiding money.
An alternative to the two major parties, the APC and the PDP, and also the new force, the Labour Party, Peter Obi?
With all due respect, there are only two parties at play. Everything else is out there making noise. The two parties are one. They failed. Anybody, and I repeat this, anybody who has touched power in this country and does not have a legacy to show, I did this and it's still standing, does not deserve our vote. I'm right now part of that electorate. I'm putting myself forward because I believe that the things that we have done wrong should be changed. Somebody needs to right the wrongs of the past. And if you have touched government, if you have touched it in the way we've seen, there has been no... Look, you do something wrong in this country, nobody takes you to task. How many people does this corrupt government think this government said was corrupt, and they went after them? Yes, they took them to court. How many have been prosecuted? How many of them have been indicted? How many of them have seen any time? Nothing has changed. When Mohammed bin Salman came into Saudi as the crown prince, went in there, picked all of those that had done the wrong thing and put them in and say, you owe $1 billion, you owe $5 billion, and they all paid the money back.
So you're looking at a similar situation as what he did?
I'm only looking at a situation where we talk to the people and say, look, locking you up doesn't do anything for me. Locking you up doesn't do anything for this nation. What can you give back to this nation? Nigeria is for Nigerians. I'm not here to kill anybody, arrest anybody. There's a rule of, if the courts can't find you guilty, the courts cannot find you guilty. If you do not want to pay penance, then you will have to deal with the long arm of the law at that point. But first, give people an option. We're not here to be holier than thou. I'm not perfect, but I would love a very good country coming out of 4 or 8 years of a Malik Ado-Ibrahim rule. One that you look back and say, yes, I'm better off today than I was 4 years and 8 years ago. Because nobody in the streets today can tell me, nobody that has a life that they've earned, a money that they've earned, a job that they've kept, can tell me that they are better off today than they were 4 years ago or 8 years ago.
What would you say to those that say, oh, it's a turn of the South, the Southern Christians?
Yes. I didn't realize, and I've never realized, that the Nigerian passport was divided into the northern part of the country or the southern part of the country. Yes, people say you would say that. Look, I'm a Yoruba and I'm an Igbira man. My father is a Muslim. My mother is a Christian. I never saw fights. I went to Sunday school every Sunday. All Saints Church, Yaba. Every Sunday. I went to school in England. They didn't have a mosque. We had to go to church. I believe in God. That's look, I'm not in any way putting anybody's religion down. I believe that the upbringing I have allows me to be inclusive, to be understanding, to be empathetical to everybody, male, female, Christian, Muslim. I don't care. I have a family. My grandfather had 148 children. 148 children. Each one of those 148 children is not from a Muslim bred in one way. I've got aunties that are married to Uncle Pius Okibo, may his soul rest in peace. I've got aunties that are married to Southern Yoruba. Uncle Moses was the founder of St. Nicholas Hospital in Lagos. The Majekodunmi family is my family. I don't say because you're Christian, I don't talk to you. I'm in a unique position that whether it's Igbo, Hausa, Fulani, I'm even married to a Kanuri woman. I don't have the vision or the lack of vision of a normal Nigerian. I believe that what I bring to play today is about the Nigerianness that I want everybody to feel. I'm not interested in where you came from. I'm asking you, what can you do for your country?
So you don't believe in zoning?
I don't believe in zoning. Zoning is not in my heart. They didn't zone me and say, okay, you're born here, so this is all you're going to do, and you wait your turn. I didn't go to school. I didn't go to my business. They don't ask me, oh, you're please. When your doctor is sitting there, do you ask him, are you from the south? No, sorry, the last one was from the north. It's the time of this other. No, we look, those are ones that want to divide us. The beauty of the Nigeria that I've been brought up to understand, and maybe it's just the time I was born. It was just after the Civil War, or just during the Civil War period. Before that period, as I said, my uncle was the High Commissioner in the UK in 1960. Abdul Malik Ado, who I'm named after, was the one who signed the independence document with Queen Elizabeth II and brought down the Union Jack. That's the Nigeria I know. It was a Nigeria for all of us. We didn't say, oh, by the way, bring down this flag, it's only going to the north. He was knighted. Knight of the British Empire. So with Saldanha and other people. We didn't take that as being very different. He still came home. He was the ambassador to UK, to France, and he died in 1970. All of us, that my grandfather, my uncles, have served this country with one thing in hand. Not that we think that we're better than anybody else, but the spirit of our grandfather or their fathers was that this is one country. I don't care where you marry from. And I don't care. And one other thing I'll ask you with religion, we're all descendants of Abraham, whether you like it or not. You cannot change that. You cannot unring that bell. And as long as God didn't divide us then, why are we dividing ourselves now? So I don't believe in that segregation.
So to round up this interview, I would ask about the final question. What's the role of women in your government? We know there's a 5-point agenda, demand from civil society and women groups asking the National Assembly to make some alterations that would push the idea of allowing women a place at the table, as in giving them some kind of quota system in politics and also bringing them in. What do you think about that 5-point agenda? What's the role of women in politics?
If it's anything to go by the home I'm in, my wife is my president. So I believe fundamentally that women bring something that men cannot bring. And we need it at this point in time in Nigeria. The spirit to nurture. The right woman in the right place with that spirit of love that they're just naturally endowed with changes everything. Your child and your country. And I believe that one of the things I don't want to do is do a disservice to women by putting the wrong women in a place just because of gender. But there are enough well-versed, well-educated women in Nigeria. In fact, it is probably, from somebody who has worked outside internationally, Nigerian women give us more of an international flair, whether it's at United Nations or the WTO or the WHO. They're doing these things. Why can't they do them at home?
So based on ministerial positions, are women going to get a quota in your government?
I don't believe in the quota. I believe that they are 50% of this population and they gave birth to the other 50%. They deserve to at least have that equal presence in an administration that's run by Malik Ado-Ibrahim. I fundamentally believe in that.
You've heard it right here. It's been a wonderful time speaking with Prince Malik Ado-Ibrahim, and he's running for the presidential position on the YPP platform for the 2023 general elections. Thank you very much for staying with us. We're coming right back to you with another candidate. Thank you and God bless you. Thank you, Prince.
Thank you very much. Pleasure. Thank you.
Pleasure.